Don't let his youthful appearance fool you. He has been around quite a while in several variations of the trio format. He also was Lionel Hampton's band leader during the 80s. Would you welcome, please, Thomas Chapin, with Mario Pavone on bass and Michael Sarin on drums. Thomas Chapin.
Step out onto the stage and you're all alone and you don't know what's going to happen. What's great is that you don't know what's going to happen. And you don't know what you're going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I like that.
Tremendous energy. Both a creator and an inspiration. Completely free.
He was very disciplined. He was a real character.
Highly curious kid.
Determined. A 25-year-old white kid ends up as leader of Lionel Hampton's band.
The traditional avant-garde.
People responded to what he did. He was able to bring people to the other side. At the high point of an ascending career. The whole world in front of him. And then he's gone. It was such an enormous tragedy for everyone touched by him.
I first met Thomas in the early 1990s when his music began to take off. I watched him grow and play on the big stages of jazz and saw his many records come out. When he died, I felt very, very sad. 2 days after his passing in a Providence, Rhode Island hospital, my sister and I searched for the New York Times so we could read her husband's obituary. As I waited in the car and flipped on the radio, an NPR station was paying tribute to Thomas. It was at that moment that I realized that Thomas was somebody. He was somebody important. And I knew as a filmmaker I would have to one day tell his story.
Thomas actually, I believe, was one of the Bruce Galanter, one of his many recommendations. It happened at his store, was right around the corner. I was doing all the booking, but there were a dozen very close people, associates, who basically would say, you gotta check this person out, you gotta check this person out. I was looking for stuff that was, you know, pushing the envelope, sounded like nothing else I had heard before, had energy, felt like it was new. And Thomas, you know, embodied all of that.
Here's this like ordinary 50s New England family where this kid's born into it, and how did that happen? You know, it's like, how did we get from here to there?
Yeah.
One of the funny ironies of Tom's life story is that it was a family tradition that he should go to this fancy prep school, Andover, which my father went to and I went to, and so it was expected he would go there. And you know, the whole track there is you go to Yale or Harvard or Princeton, and, you know, you enter that whole thing. And he comes to Andover, and he meets this teacher. This guy had a reputation in jazz, and this was a really important person for Tom, because he's the guy that introduced Tom to jazz. And within this traditional prep school, he found his escape from all that tradition, and it gave him the ticket out of that whole trap.
I remember with Thomas, because when I heard him, I tried to get him with Lionel Hampton. And Lionel was, you know, he wasn't that, you know, he hadn't really heard him. And I was teaching, and I would go out with Hamp's band. So I told Lionel, I said, look, Mr. Hampton, I'm teaching school, you know, but I'll go out and make this job if you hire Tom. So he said, well, yeah, okay. And once he heard him, that was the end of that. And he liked Thomas Chapin so much, he made him the musical director of the band.
Thomas, anytime he comes around, you're gonna go. You know, there's no choice. So when I saw him, I was just like, wow. I mean, there it is right in front of me. You know, I mean, there's this language, there's this person that's, you know, so intense into it. I mean, it was, I don't know, magical. You know, when you see him, it just he pulls you in so far. You're just, the rest of the world's gone. You're there to enjoy the music.
What made Thomas unique and what he did with music in the genre was he bridged that gap between the avant-garde, the downtown camp, and the more traditional camp in jazz. And he was equally at home in either one. And he brought elements of both into the opposite camps. He would play very freely in a traditional setting, but still within the context, and it would work. And then he would play more traditionally in a freer setting and have that work also. So he was bending the genres. I think that's what a lot of people took away from Thomas.
He was one of the first jazz guys to play to a white rock audience and turn them on. There weren't a lot of people doing that. One would never consider him to be a pop guy, but he understood how to reach into that, Nirvana crowd, which nobody else was doing. In that sense, he was an important part of the history in the fabric of the story of how music in the world has evolved. Not just a player, not just a sideman, not just even within the pop world or rock world or jazz world doing their thing, but he kind of, in a certain sense, crossed over as a true artist, and that to me is more rare.
They talk about people being entertainers or performers as well as musicians, and I think that he definitely had that ability too. And a lot of it just came from his energy and his passion. But also, he had some pretty crazy clothes he wore on stage, and he moved a lot.
He wasn't just going through these physical gyrations to try to get audience response. I think that was the music. That's how he processed the music. Coming from him.
He did it without drugs in any way, completely without drugs. So he had this incredible energy. He was a taskmaster. He was a hard worker. He was hard on the trio with Mike Serena and myself. And we rehearsed endlessly, 3-4 times a week for all of the 7 years. We never stopped adding new material.
Thomas was deep, very deep. He was deep musically, he was deep emotionally, he was deep spiritually.
He had something to say, and when he picked up his instruments, he knew that. He was committed to it. It wasn't anything unnatural to him. It was extremely much at the core of his being.
That sort of beautiful vibe was always there. From the first time I met him to the last time I met him, he had this kind of gleam in his eye that would make me smile.
He had become so pure of heart and uncompromised in his love of life and freeness of spirit that people were just wildly attracted to him.
He is, in my estimation, one of the last great creators in the music who actually was moving the needle, was moving the music forward, not just playing in an innovative fashion, not just bringing something new to the table as a performer, but who actually was both a creator and an inspiration, in which musicians who performed with him brought out the best aspects of what they did.
Things have changed in the 15 years since his passing, but his music still holds up very well. There are players that now bring together these two fields. The music moves on, and partly because of Thomas's and the trios amongst many great artists. But there's not many players, or if any, playing exactly with bringing these elements together. And so he still remains unique. His music still remains unique. His pursuit of it is unique.
The fact that he's somebody who nobody knows, that becomes a justification for making a film because he should be known.